All right, let's get right into it. Southern California is getting hit with some pretty wild weather right now, and, well, it's not exactly your typical fall day. We're talking about a major heat wave in late October, crashing right into the first powerful winds of the season. So let's break this down. What makes this a really big deal? It's because SoCal is getting hit with two things at once this week. It's not just the heat, and it's not just the wind. It's that dangerous combination of both happening at the same time. So you've got this heat advisory, right? Warning us about some seriously high temperatures. And then bam, you've got the first major Santa Ana winds of the season showing up. Either one of those would be a concern for sure. But when they show up together, that's when things get a lot more serious. Okay, first up, let's talk about the heat. And look, this is not your normal, pleasant autumn warmth. What we've got is this stubborn ridge of high pressure just sitting on top of the region, and it is cranking up the thermostat way, way above what's normal for late October. And the numbers here are pretty wild. I mean, we're not talking about just a few degrees warmer. The National Weather Service is saying we could see highs soaring into the mid-90s in a lot of the inland valleys. To give you some context, that is a full 10 to 15 degrees hotter than it should be this time of year. Wow. All right, so that's the heat. Now let's switch gears to the other half of this problem, the winds. And this is that classic setup, the one that puts all of Southern California on edge every single fall. These offshore winds are expected to bring some really powerful gusts, especially in those areas that always get hit hard, the wind-prone corridors and through the mountains. We could be looking at peak gusts somewhere between 30 and 45 miles per hour, and believe me, that is more than enough to stir up some serious trouble. So to get why this is so dangerous, you really have to understand what these winds are all about. The best way to think about them is like a giant natural hairdryer. They grab all this hot, super dry air from the desert, shove it over the mountains, and as it comes down slope towards the coast, it gets compressed. And that process just heats it up even more and sucks out every last drop of moisture. Okay, so where is this hitting the hardest? I mean, the whole region is feeling it, but some spots are definitely in the bullseye. Let's take a look. Yeah, if you look at the numbers, you can see this is happening pretty much everywhere. But check out LA and Ventura counties. They're really getting that 1-2 punch, the extreme heat and the strongest wind gusts. The Inland Empire's also getting cooked with really high temps, though the winds there might be just a little less intense. So this gets us to the so what of it all, right? Why is this such a big deal? Well, this exact combo, the intense heat, the strong winds, and super low humidity, it creates two huge dangers for everybody in the area. And you don't have to take my word for it. This quote from the National Weather Service just nails the biggest danger here. They're saying it straight up, conditions are becoming critical for fire. If something sparks, the vegetation is so dry and these winds could just fan it into a massive fire in literally minutes. But it's not just about the fire danger. The heat itself is a huge health risk. Think about it. This isn't the middle of summer when we're all used to the heat. This is a sudden, intense blast of it in late fall, and that can really, really catch your body by surprise. That's why you're hearing officials urge everyone to be super careful, especially for vulnerable folks, kids, the elderly, people working outside. And just to give you a real-world example of how hot it's going to be, think about this. Game 4 of the World Series at Dodger Stadium, the first pitch is expected to be thrown in about 91-degree heat. That's intense. So the big question is, how long is this going to last? When can we expect a break? Let's take a look at the timeline. Okay, so the official heat advisory kicks in Tuesday morning and runs all the way through Wednesday evening. Tuesday is really the main event, though. That's when we're expecting the peak of both the heat and the wind. The good news, it looks like we'll start to get some relief as we head into the weekend. So, what can you do? It's really all about sticking to that advice from the experts, which sounds like common sense, but it is absolutely critical right now. Drink tons of water, find some AC if you can, and please, if you're planning any tough outdoor activities, try to move them to the early morning or later in the evening when it's cooled down a bit. And this whole situation leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? As we keep seeing these intense summer-like heat waves push later and later into the year, right when the Santa Ana winds are supposed to start, what does that mean for what fall is going to look like in Southern California from now on? It's definitely something to think about, especially since the data shows autumns are just getting warmer all across the West.